Could mass testing across the country every week be a way of avoiding another lockdown? Or would it just be an expensive waste of resources? Joining us now is Sally Taggart, the executive head of Shenfield St Mary's C of E Primary School in Essex, which is one of 104 schools in England where children and staff are being tested weekly. We have Mike Fisher, who runs a laboratory and says mass testing is the only way forward. And healthcare expert professional Cam Donaldson, who says we need a more strategic, targeted approach. So, Sally, if we can start with you, Sally Taggart, can you explain a little bit about how this is working for your school, one of 104 schools in the UK where the children and staff are being tested weekly? What's been the reaction to everybody at your school, and how's it been going down?
Initially, parents were asking lots of questions, staff wondering why, but once it was explained, it was around helping the school to open wider in the future to check whether actually it was being transmitted more in schools than other places. They understood and they've been really reassured by it. Actually, we've got a very good attendance in comparison to other schools, so we're at around 85% attendance for those children welcomed in. And I think it's really reassured the parents, and it's reassured my staff, because a lot of staff members are clinically vulnerable and they feel much better about coming into work. So, and it's going really well.
So you're getting feedback on the results of those tests, and you actually believe that the attendance at school at the moment, up at 85%, is a direct result because everyone's getting tested weekly?
Yes, I think so. But I think hopefully the study will be able to prove that in the future schools are safe so we can open more widely. There are problems with it because obviously it's taking quite a lot of time out of the school day, and at the moment we're only testing 160 children and staff members. So if that was to carry on into September and I had 420 children and another, then that would be 70 members of staff in my school. It's going to take considerable time out of the curriculum. So hopefully the study will prove that we don't need to do it in the future.
Mike, coming to you, because I know you run a laboratory, you've put money into making sure that testing is more available, haven't you? And you believe that actually more mass testing is the way out of this?
That's correct, but it's not without planning. I think it's a no-brainer that the sooner Britain can be regularly testing all of its healthcare staff and its medical staff on a weekly basis, the better. In terms of where you take mass testing beyond that, if you get to the stage that China got to with one, where you've basically got the disease under control, but you have a lockdown, a potential lockdown because of an outbreak. One city tested 8 million people in 12 days at a cost of £100 million. Found 300 cases, most of them asymptomatic, and avoided a lockdown. So I think it's just a no-brainer that if you were running this country, if I were running this country, I would have a plan to build up that mass testing capability. There's a technology called pool testing, which you can apply when you're doing asymptomatic testing and most people are negative, which has been what's used in China, it's used in part of Germany, it's used in India. And it basically allows you to expand your testing capacity tenfold.
It sounds like a great idea, but can I just, because I mean, would it even be feasible? We'd have all those difficulties in this country getting the testing numbers up to speed in the first place. We've got the test track and trace system at the moment, which isn't yet the world-beating system we were promised, it seems, because those who were referred to the system, almost 21,000 people since this system began at the end of May, 73% were reached and asked to provide details of their contacts. So that means 1 in 4, a quarter of people aren't being reached. We're still having difficulties, aren't we, implementing the systems that we've got, let alone looking to what the next phase could be, rolling it out to everybody.
Well, the labs in my network have been doing regular screening testing for some months now with GP practices, with schools, with care homes. And the big difference is that we deal at the organizational level. So we're not asking people to register and send them something through the post. We actually deal with the organization. A lot of the front end work is done. So we have virtually no problems with lost swabs or incorrect details. And so I think that's one development that's going to happen. We've been pioneering that. Unfortunately, our funding from the department is probably going to stop, so we're going to have to move that work and our pooling work into the commercial sector. But it's very doable. But the current approach, the Public Health England needs to move away from just a single approach of trying to deal with it on an individual basis and moving more to the way we deal with it, which is very satisfactory, which is on a school basis,
okay.
on an organisation basis.
Well, let's go to Professor Cam Donaldson. Listening, Cam, to what Sally was saying about the impact that the regular testing, the weekly testing they've had at their school, it sounds like it's not only reassuring the students and reassuring the teachers, but it's reassuring the parents as well. Regular testing, if not mass testing, could that potentially be the answer for all of us, regardless of the infrastructure issues and the cost? Because ultimately, if we can get the confidence back in everybody, we can get the economy up and running again, and we get back to where we want to be.
Yeah, well, I think the key question is mass testing, or testing for what purpose? That's the key thing. The tests are still a scarce and valuable resource, so we have to set priorities, unfortunately. We can't disregard the costs. We have to set priorities about who is likely to benefit most and how is the population likely to benefit most from whatever strategy we put in place. So the first group that we would want to prioritise would obviously be key workers, including teachers, but there are millions of them. And how often would we be wanting to test and then retest that group of people? We have symptomatic patients, and then beyond that, we want to be using testing for, as Mike said, a planned test and trace system, so that we can then decide what policies to enact on the basis of where the disease or the virus seems to be getting out of control.
So what do you make of the way the government's approached testing up till now?
Haphazard, throwing out meaningless numbers like 100,000 a day. Do you remember when we were fixated on that? Well, 100,000 a day, when we have over 1 million people working in the NHS, maybe about the same in social care, and then all the other people that we and the population at large would designate as key workers, meant it would have, at one point, it would have taken months to get through just the key workers. So rather than throw out meaningless large numbers and think that the population will just take that on board and think that it's acceptable, we need to work out, first of all, what is the need, and then work backwards from the need to create the strategy for testing.
OK, well, thanks very much. That's Professor Cam Donaldson there. Also, Mike Fisher joining us, and Sally Taggart.
Just one thing, though, Sally, because last night I got a message from someone at your school. This has come from Liz Bundy. She's the deputy head, so she's got a vested interest. But she said, Ben, I know our head teacher is on tomorrow. Please, can you pass on from all the staff, children and parents a huge thank you for organising such a fantastic lockdown learning experience. So not only do you have 85%, it might not be just the testing. It sounds like it might be the fact that they have a great head teacher as well. So, Sally, that's from Liz and everybody at your school.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Liz.
A nice message.
Indeed. I mean, Hilary, if we can come to you on that.
Hilary, yeah. What do you think about this mass testing? Because, you know, there are arguments there that actually it would tell us more about where the virus was. It would include asymptomatic people. But on the other hand, is it even feasible? A massive cost. They think it could be £1 billion a month to get us all tested every week.
One of the problems is that tests that are done on asymptomatic people are often negative. We get a lot of false negatives. But mass testing on a weekly basis, of course, in an ideal world, absolutely marvellous. If everyone was tested every week, game over, really. However, look at the cost. It's estimated that they need to do about 10 million tests every day at a cost of £1 billion every month. So I think the policy of testing those key workers who are most at risk and then tracing people who've been in contact with them, isolating them, putting them in quarantine, that's probably the most cost-effective way forward.